Skill cards are an evolutionary offshoot featured in the Duel Links and Speed Duel formats. Based on the abilities from the anime, skill cards add a bit of depth and strategy to the game, as most of them are a consistent resource which can be used under certain conditions. They range in quality from borderline useless to broken to arguably a bigger hazard than benefit. The activated abilities are interesting, but today I want to focus on the passive skill cards. A lot of older cards struggle with the do-nothing problem, where their impact does not justify their inclusion as a card in the deck. Card advantage is paramount. These retrained skill cards solve that problem, as well as adding consistency to strategies which absolutely require a certain card, like how It's a Toon World benefits Toon strategies. Today, I want to suggest a dozen older cards which could be turned into skill cards. Let's go! Kotodama is such an interesting card, essentially the legendary rule for Magic. While the effect is active, only one monster of each name may exist on the field at the same time, with additional effects enforcing this rule by destroying a monster or monsters. This card is odd, and I really like the effect, but it has no chance on such a weak monster. This might actually be more of a side deck skill card, if such a thing could exist, but I find it interesting enough to put it on the list. Hieroglyph, Lithograph, and Innervating Mist deal with maximum hand size, with the former incrementing your maximum hand size by 1, while the latter decrements your opponent's maximum hand size by 1. This is an adaptation of the original effects, but I still think hand size is something in the game which isn't played around with enough. Dimensional Fissure is likely too strong for either game, since a lot of the more popular skill cards deal with the graveyard. I suggest Soul Demolition as a good alternative, although a much stronger card will be featured later in the list. We can keep the Fiend monster restriction, but replacing the 500 life point cost with a once per turn restriction. I have always liked Dark Smog, and this version would be a side grade to that card. Convulsion of Nature is just a fun card, with symmetric information gathering and occasionally useful effect alongside other cards, like Archfiend's Oath to gain card advantage. The slightly skillful, yet quite whimsical nature of the card means I just had to mention it. Catnipped Kitty is cute, but that is not the reason it is here. It is a bit of an improvement over Kotodama with a layer of protection, if just from being an attack target. Microray is cool, especially when you can combo it with Earthquake. It adds utility to cards like Block Attack, or monsters with piercing damage like Mad Sword Beast or Dark Triceratops. With the dinosaurs mentioned, it would probably fit well with Rex Raptor, although Dino Destruction would be displaced. Appropriate is an amazing side deck card, or at least I would be saying it if its activation requirement was easier. Shared Ride functions better in the main game, but a revealed Appropriate would make your opponent double think using draw spells. It is a card that impacts the player dynamics, with some players not caring about the card advantage and others choosing to have a dead draw card in their hand. It makes the game interesting. Tower of Babel functions on the same axis as Appropriate, where there's a bit of a game within the game, where the two players have to think about activating spells, since it limits future play. It does have a problem with first turn advantage, but again, a once per turn clause would help. That would at least guarantee your opponent one free spell before the tipping point of the tower. Although the tower does fall pretty hard, so addressing the amount of life point damage might be necessary. Enraged Battle Ox is similar to Dino Destruction, and a little more powerful, but I really like the Beast, Beast Warrior, Winged Beast restriction. I would love to see a Chumley skill card based on beasts. Bonus points for adding Pitch Black Warwolf, either in the main deck or as another option for the skill card. This one might be too strong for the format. Virtually shutting down access to the graveyard, the end of Anubis is what Konami was trying to do with Necro Valley, I think. This card is incredibly strong in a slower format which likes to recycle or special summon from the graveyard. This might be a design limiting card, so it is not at the top of the list. Coming in at number 1 is a tie, DNA Surgery and DNA Transplant, which change all face-up monsters' types and attributes respectively. This is cool because it allows for a mix and match of different strategies. Limiter removal on your Blue Eyes White Dragon, or maybe Honest on your Dark Arm Dragon. The duo are just cool to me, but I really don't know who would have them as skill cards. Maybe the Dueling Monkey from GX? Wheeler skill card confirmed?